Pokemon Sun and Moon come out this Friday, and of course we're all excited. New story, new Pokemon, whatever the hell this is that Team Stoll is doing. But the one thing that I'm really excited for are the brand new Alola Forms. They are great ways of adding new facets to old Pokemon, similar to Mega Evolutions but without making them too great. We've seen some great ones thus far that have some unique traits, and some dank as fuck Z moves. But here I've compiled a list of some of the possible future Alola Forms that I would like to see. I'm factoring in the potential that they have in type changes and design changes, but also the possibility that they will happen. Like, I know that we're not having a fucking Alolan Rayquaza with 9 types and machine guns for arms, but there is a possibility for some of the Pokemon on this list. I'll sort of be adding my own predictions and ideas as to how they could style them and what types they could give them. Mainly we've seen some Pokemon 2-stage evolutions from the first gen get Alola Forms, so I'll be mainly sticking in that area. But there's always room for adjustment. I hope you enjoy the ideas I've come up with, and feel free to share any idea of your own that you may have. And let's just see if any of these happen on November 18th. One stereotypical fact of Hawaii is that there are coconuts there. So of course this leads us to finding the prime coconut Pokemon. And what fits the shape better than Forretress? Forretress could become a nicely shaped coconut of sorts, and maybe change its typing from Steel Bug to Steel Ground or Steel Grass. To be honest, there's not a hell of a lot to this idea. I just want to see a coconut fighting some fucking dragons. The only question that's left is, what would its pre-evolution Pineco look like? A smaller coconut? Hey, I never said I have all the answers here. I'm a simple man, alright? If there is something that can be commonly found in Hawaii, it is most certainly the common species of overweight men wearing sunblock. And if you don't think that I can construe a Pokemon to meet my deranged imaginative expectations, then you're wrong, because I present to you a Lowland Snorlax. Right, here's my idea. We take Snorlax, put a lay on that bitch, and some sunblock, and boom, you got a Lowland Snorlax. A normal fire type. There's absolutely nothing that you can say to convince me that this would not be an amazing idea. I mean, think of the possibilities. Customizable gear for your trainer? How about customizable gear for your Snorlax? Not beachy enough for you? Throw some floral shorts on that big guy. Still not enough? Then toss on a grass skirt. And still not enough? Then pump him full of creatine until he looks like David Hasselhoff. The possibilities are endless with this big guy. So despite Alolan Rattata looking like a whole lot of bullshit, it has a really nice concept behind it, of changing the bland normal type into something a little more interesting. Which is exactly why I think the same treatment should be given to another normal type, that being Titty and Delcatty. I personally feel that Titty and Delcatty don't get a lot of recognition, so I think adding a darker psychic typing to these Pokemon could make them a lot more interesting. I don't quite know how you would swing it, but I mean, a mustache seemed to work for Rattata, so why the hell not? The problem with so many Pokemon like Titty and Delcatty is that they are kind of shoved off to the side because of their simple typing, when they have a lot of potential. Giving this evolutionary line a different typing and feel to it could change a lot of bland Pokemon for the better. In the same realm of Pokemon that could really use some more attention to improve them somewhat, Masquerain is in need of a big help. Masquerain could be improved upon greatly by changing the typing of Bug to something like Ghost. A Ghost flying type is not common at all, and Masquerain has a lot of room to become one. Right now, Bug flying is pretty shitty, and changing it to Ghost would exchange the weakness of Fire and Flying for Ghost and Dark, which aren't as commonly used. But also, Masquerain is based off of Masquerade Mask, which have a lot of anonymity carried with them. Masquerain has a sort of quiet grace to it, and turning into a Ghost Pokemon would just make it even more subtle of a grace. A very real and serious issue in Hawaii are natural disasters. They can harm the population and require millions of dollars to recover from, which is exactly why I'm going to marginalize them for YouTube ad revenue. Okay, with all the foresight in the world, this is a lawsuit that is waiting to happen, but I still want it anyways. A Sharknado form of Sharpedo is a clear necessity and a sin to not create. You can't look me in the eye and say that a flying water shark is not the dankest fucking thing you've ever heard of. I mean, any electric type move would destroy it, but if you look past that, this would be an incredible Pokemon and a beautiful thing to pull up with your fishing rod. Hawaii's plethora of wildlife lend it to witnessing a lot of bird Pokemon. Bird Pokemon have a fondness for being incredibly boring, like Swanna. It's literally just a glorified turkey and should be exterminated promptly. Although a bird Pokemon that could really soar with an Alola form is one that can't fly at all. Dodrio. The way I imagine this going down is Dodrio gaining some fire aspect to it and basically becoming a little Moltres. Think about it. You take a torch, some oil, and bada bing bada boom, you have a once again extinct species that just looks a lot cooler. You exchange a weakness to ice for a weakness to water, which is marginally worse, but on the upside, he's got a sick new look to him. Something that we have been seeing a lot of in this new region are totems. They're all over the place, either defending the island or beating the shit out of poor defenseless cat Pokemon. The thing is that we already have a totem in the game. See, Xatu is a really cool concept. It's a bird Pokemon with psychic powers. Now the only thing is that totems, don't fly. Now a Lowland Xatu would come fully equipped with typing of ground instead of flying, giving it a little bit more sensibility in design. Now here's the thing, the typing of Psychic Ground has been done before. Baltoy and Claydol have it, and it's not good, let me tell you. It has 6 weaknesses, which is terrible. I could argue it could be Psychic Rock, but that's actually one of the only typings that is worse than Psychic Ground. So there really is no win for Xatu here. Although the Psychic Ground typing could still make for an interesting design, and to that I say, why the hell not? So a few weeks ago we got this picture of a golem with a mustache, and looking past whatever this feature is, we can see that this could have possibly 2 conflicting types. This presumably could be a ground electric type, and this got me thinking about other conflicting types like Ludicolo, and I came up with one of my own to add to some of the native life of Alola. Alolan Tentacruel is surprisingly feasible. Imagine electric water type, kind of similar to Chinchou, but just a hell of a lot bigger. I mean, it makes sense since it's based off the Man-o-War jellyfish, which is not quite in Hawaii. It's kind of on the other side of the world in Portugal, which literally shares 0 letters with the word Hawaii, but it's basically the same place. Although making this a water electric type would have made that episode in the anime a hell of a lot scarier. Hawaii is well known for its scientific research. There's plenty of volcanoes and nature preserves around that lend themselves to weather and climate studies. So naturally, it would be interesting to have a Pokemon related to that type of scientific study. That's exactly why I think there should be a weather balloon Drifblim. In terms of fitting into the region, a weather balloon Pokemon does that well. But by making Drifblim into a weather balloon, you give it some badass steel outlining, and boom, you got yourself a new steel flying type. Since Starmie is the only other steel flying, Drifblim could add something new to it. And by getting rid of the ghost typing, you remove the weakness to dark and ghost. Also, this then finally gives poor Drifblim a purpose. I mean, all this thing does is float the fuck around. Maybe if it were a weather balloon, it could be of some use. One of the interesting things that is clearly being explored in Sun and Moon is the tribal history of Hawaii. There are totems everywhere, kahunas run the island, and everyone wears aloha shirts. And that's about as native as you can get. So with all of this going on, I can't see a good reason not to include a Pokemon based around native fighting. And we already have some Pokemon specifically made for fighting. The Tyrogue evolutionary line would be great to include an Alolan form of because they could create a unique fighting style for the region. Hawaii already has a fighting style called Kapu Kawaila, focused around bone breaking. But Hawaii is also famous for their spear and dagger weaponry. So maybe there could be an Alolan Tyrogue that fights with a spear and has the steel fighting type. I mean, even for people who have a problem with aborigines, this should be a kick-ass Pokemon. It would become weak to fighting, ground, and fire, as opposed to Tyrogue's weakness to psychic, flying, and fairy. But on the upside, it would have a fucking spear. And you can't argue that that wouldn't be badass. Hey, it was decent, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed that video a lot, and I hope you'll stick around for the next couple of videos in Pokemon Month. The next one is all about weird Pokemon species, so maybe you might find it interesting. On the left I have the previous video in Pokemon Month, top 10 most neglected Pokemon, and on the right I have the playlist for all of my previous Pokemon Month videos, so check it out if you want. All my social media links are in the description, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.